right, everybody, the weekend starts right now. This is the One Up Yours podcast for Friday, August the 17th on the One Up Network. This is Garnet League bringing it to you from our other studio up here on the Game Group floor with Shane and John. And in the first segment, Mr. Mark McDonald.
How are you guys doing?
Man, we're doing great. How about you?
Happy to be here.
You ready for the weekend?
I am, actually. I have a great weekend
Are you going
planned.
running? Because I hit the Kotaku guys seem to think that you run track.
Well, no, I mean this body, I was born with it, actually, John.
There was. Did you see it? The end of the story about all the Ziff bullshit this week was, I'll tell you who looks good. Mark McDonald looks good. Man, that guy must run track or something.
Well, when Kotaku isn't busy writing about what they had for breakfast, you know.
That's Mike McWhorter. He's a good guy and a funny guy, but yeah. He's having a little fun.
Were you at some event with him where you took your shirt off or something?
That famous Capcom Gamers Day with the baby oil. Shane remembers.
The fireman calendar you're on.
He's a good guy. We joke around, but
And Mark McDonald is a damn handsome man.
Well,
But this was specifically about your physique.
Yeah, but so let's talk about. Come on, let's talk about my weekend. That's what we're going to talk about, right? That's much more interesting to people. Actually, it will be much more interesting to people because my weekend, most of it, is going to be work, but it's going to be playing Metroid Prime.
Oh, that poor guy.
As will I.
Yes.
So should I slip in real quick a little quick rundown of what we're going to do on the show today since we have the group here?
Yeah.
Right.
Let's do it.
So here we go.
Into it.
In the first segment, we're going to do what you've been playing. Mark's already spilled the beans. He's going to be talking about some Metroid a little bit because he's just gotten it in and has gotten to get going on it, as has Shane. In the second segment, we're going to bring in Patrick Klepek for the remainder of the show. We're going to cover Game Fest, because he was up in Seattle earlier this week, and Microsoft had a lot to show and talk about, and they made a couple of interesting announcements pursuant to their online strategies and what they're doing with 360. So we're going to talk about that. In the third block, we will have news as always. And now back to your segue.
Yeah, so we can't actually talk about it.
Well, yeah, that's a tough thing. Like, Nintendo's been very...
So all you can do is tease people.
They've been very secretive about this game.
But it was playable at E3. We can talk about what people played at E3, what we saw, what we read in Jeremy's blog.
And one of the things at E3 was the first 20 minutes of the game, which really is the first 20 minutes of the game, and we played the final version of that now.
Jeremy has a good write-up of it, actually. It's a lot like the first section in Halo. Like, if the rest of the game is like the first segment is unlike the beginning of other Metroid Prime games.
Well, on a grander scale, like if you like step back a little bit and go further, like the first hour and a half of the game, if you look at that, it is a little bit more like some of the stuff you've seen in other Metroid games, but it is presented to you very differently. You're talking to people. You're like you're getting mission objectives. You're
it's
interacting with.
It's a little more role playing game.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's hard. Definitely don't want to ruin anything for people. This is in the previews, though. If you're, staunch, like don't want to have any idea, which I kind of didn't going before E3 of what to expect. Turn down your radios now. But it does start off a lot like the original Halo. You're on a ship. The ship gets attacked. You escape the ship. Stuff is blowing up. Stuff is cool. It's definitely that first section, at least, much more the real time. What do you call them? Like from Half-Life, where stuff is going on.
Right, the cutscenes are happening around you.
Right. Like stuff, triggered events. What do you call
scripted
events?
Scripted
That's the word I was looking for. The first part of it, at least, is filled with much more of that. It had a couple little cool things that I remember talking to somebody about at E3. The different like target practice, sort of taking advantage of the Wiimote aiming. Instead of just
and I'm sure right off the bat, both you and I switched to the advanced control setup, right?
Actually, I don't remember if I did. What's the difference?
Well, the ability to move while strafing, to lock onto things and move freely and independently while locked on.
Oh, I think that's the default setting, isn't it?
I don't know. It's the advanced setup. I mean.
Because I don't think I changed that, and it's definitely been that way.
Right, but like as people who play Metroid Prime 1 and 2, like the control, it is different. Like, and there is definitely an acclamation. It doesn't exactly feel like Metroid Prime 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Just because the way you're moving through the levels is different.
So you lock on, and it's a switch instead of squeezing the trigger, and you can move, and you're always oriented.
It's weird. It's different. It's like the older Metroid Primes in that you lock on to an enemy, and that's your locking on your viewpoint. So no matter where you move around, your view stays locked on. That enemy stays like on the screen somewhere near the middle, but you still have to aim. Your aiming is not locked onto him.
It's kind of like a big aim assist, and you still have to correct your aim by actually aiming the Wiimote at like the head of the enemy you want to shoot. So it isn't exactly like a real lock-on. And like if you just think you're gonna like press Z and press shoot and kill things, it doesn't work.
Right.
Like you don't actually hit things.
Right. Yeah.
So you still actually have to aim.
So it's different, and I haven't played it that much. I mean, I've only really, it's just my experience from E3. But I don't know to say if I like the controls better or not yet.
I've played about 5 hours, and I'm like just now getting really used to it. Like it takes a while, and the missiles. It really took me a while to get used to. You press down on the D-pad,
right,
and they are homing missiles. Like all missiles are homing missiles now. So
if you're locked on,
but like you usually are. Like why would you shoot a missile if you're not locked on to somebody?
But wait, I thought the lock-on didn't help with your aiming.
Well, it does.
Only for missiles, it activates a lock-on.
Like a heat-seeking.
Okay, so it's a missile lock-on, and it's a camera lock-on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really a camera aid is what it sounds like.
More or less, yeah.
That sounds like there's a few games we've seen recently that are doing things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, anytime you're trying to conquer camera maneuvering, I mean, that's something that's been plaguing 3D games since PlayStation days,
Right.
is how do you handle this camera and keep
now,
it
I mean,
where
the Wiimote gives you that added that within a lock, there's a more obvious move
Right.
around the frame mechanic now.
I mean, other things we can talk about, the characters you've seen, these other bounty hunters, you've seen pictures of them, and then you meet them at the very beginning of the game. And the purple chick, I know I forget her name, but my theory here is...
Is this like Captain Kirk's girlfriend?
My theory is Samus is a lesbian lover. She calls Samus Sammy, which is a term of endearment. I'm just putting it out there. Like I haven't gotten far enough to really know if that's true, but just based on
hope right now.
Based on first impressions, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then the voice acting, everyone talks except for Samus.
Right, which is cool.
Yeah, it's the first time like you're hearing all these voices.
Well, you said that's cool. So really, do you like that? I mean, that's a big change in the game for me.
That's like a GTA 3, there's these weird, like, if everyone's talking, then this whole, you're Samus.
She nods. She's like,
I'm not sure. That always sounds really weird to me when everyone except the main character speaks.
Yeah, I mean, and that's probably the way Nintendo games will go for a little while as sort of a middle step between it. But no, I mean, I prefer it. If the choice is I'm going to be reading the text or, I could read it and have somebody saying the stuff, like, I prefer people saying the stuff. And, I will say, like, this isn't even the game, but, like, the music, the title music is fucking awesome. Like,
you're saying that's a reviewy comment, Mark McDonald.
That is not it. What are you talking about?
That is. Maybe I thought that music totally sucked ass, and you're just trying to influence me.
Oh, I see. You're worried about me influencing you.
I am.
The music in the title thing is fucking awesome. Like, I got the Metroid Prime goosebumps. Like,
it's a remix of Metroid Prime 1's title screen music. I mean, of course, it's awesome. Duh.
It's a crazy weird. You don't even know that until like it pipes down a little bit in the end. Like, you have to let it run. It's fucking sweet.
Well, I'd say that the music is what you would expect from the franchise, and I'd also say from what I've seen, the early part of the game that was at E3, and the graphics are also what you'd expect from the franchise.
Well,
so,
yeah. I mean, and people have
seen... a very passive, not reviewy comment, huh?
So,
people have seen the videos. Like, to me, it's and this is just based on the stuff everyone else has seen. It's, here's Metroid Prime 1, a little step up Metroid Prime 2. It is a little better. If you go back and look.
Well,
I'm not reviewing the game at all. So does it look like crap?
No, and then Metroid Prime 3
I don't know.
Did
you like the GameCube version?
Yeah, Metroid Prime 1 and 2 never look like crap. In fact, they were
they
were among the best looking GameCube games I've ever played.
Exactly. So is this one of the best looking GameCube games ever also?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there are some new effects. There's some blur effects that look new and surprising.
Yeah, I'm saying it's a jump. The jump from Metroid Prime 1 to Metroid Prime 2 is about, from what I've seen so far, is about the same.
What I want to know is a more general question. What I really liked about Metroid Prime, and I didn't play 2 because other people started playing it before me, and as I heard, some of the comments on it, decided...
You should probably go back, because Metroid Prime 2 does have the single best area in any Metroid Prime game, which is the Citadel.
It's the Sanctuary.
Okay, but let me explain what I liked about Metroid Prime the most, was that after I got my head around how the controls worked, it didn't feel like a first-person shooter anymore. It felt like felt like a first-person viewed adventure sort of game.
This one feels more like first-person shooter because you are constantly adjusting where you're looking. It does, and but
I thought that was one of the really cool things about Prime was that it distinguished itself from so many other games by being unique in that way.
Because the platforming is still the same as it always was, and because of that, it doesn't really feel like an FPS. It feels more like a first-person platformer mixed with an FPS. But ultimately, it
still have a lot of story interactivity, a lot of visor stuff, all that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of scanning. I mean, anybody who's played Metroid Prime knows there's a lot of shit to scan. And in the first segment, which is what we're talking about, there are a million things to scan.
And it is the first part of the game, so who knows? Maybe that's just like to get you used to the scanning and stuff like that. But then the other Metroid Prime games were that way too. Like scanning is something you can kind of take it or leave it. I mean, I don't think they're gonna make you you scan a lot of stuff.
You have to scan sometimes, but most of the time you don't.
Right. Are you saying you guys don't like the scanning part?
I've been scanning a lot for the last few years, and I don't know.
I always thought, again, that's another part that for me made it unique.
I'm not a huge fan of how you select the visors on the Wii. It took me a while to get used to. You have to hold down the minus button and then move the reticle to the part of the screen that corresponds to the type of scanner you want. And it isn't intuitive, and definitely there's a learning curve there.
Right.
Same with pressing down to fire missiles. Like it isn't ideal.
See, I have no problem pressing down to fire missiles. The scanning thing did take me. It did take me a second, but I got to.
But I do like
quick at it.
Like jump and shoot being A and B is great. It feels really good on the Wii mode, and the aiming is good too. So
yeah.
The other thing I was going to say that's kind of weird and unexpected is you start in that first section of the game. You have a lot of abilities, and like in Metroid Prime 1 and 2, they quickly take everything away from you.
Right.
It's the traditional Metroid setup. She starts with all the stuff, you get rid of it, you have to go find it again. And this is not the case here. You start with a lot of abilities, and in fact, Mark didn't even realize at the beginning of the game you can jump as the morph ball by shaking the Wiimote, and it doesn't even tell you that.
Yeah, I did not know that, but I'm sure before you need to know that, it would tell you.
That's true. Like the hint system is still in place.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys are playing this weekend, and it's out.
The 28th.
28th.
Right.
Well, he's also they're making a big jump in another way to the other game. I know you're going to be playing some over the weekend.
Right. Well, if I can, BioShock, the game that I played, it's this little game nobody's really talking about right now, BioShock, which I played the demo. You guys?
Yeah, I played the demo last night.
Yeah.
I mean, it's brief, but wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to play the whole game as much as I can of the whole game this weekend.
It definitely the part without spoiling anything, but the woman in the cradle, like that part, the voice work in that part got me like, okay, I'm starting to get it now.
Actually, for some reason, I wasn't prepared for quite how much of a horror experience it is.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I don't know.
Even despite the visuals?
Maybe I'd glossed over that.
So I haven't played it yet, and I'm not expecting much of I'm expecting creepy, atmospheric.
It is a
evocative
horror game. I mean, there is some disturbing shit right from the very beginning.
Wow, that's surprising.
Like one of the first scenes you see in Rapture is pretty disturbing, and it's like, wow, okay. Like I'd heard you guys talking about it, and I wasn't prepared quite for the degree of of how much they jack up the horror right from the beginning.
Yeah, I think creepy is a really good way to put it, though. I mean, I think that is what it is. It's dark.
It's very creepy, and then it does its violence in bursts, like really aggressive bursts. Like you'd be like, there's water dribbling down everywhere, and then suddenly it's like, wah!
Right. Well, it's funny because somebody described it to me recently like Doom 3 with the story. Like Doom 3 with the real story. Because that's what Doom 3 was. It was like, when you get those bursts, even when you don't have the burst, you're just waiting. You're like, oh my God, something hasn't happened in a while. The shit is going to happen now. Like I can feel it. And that tension, the game really uses that, and it screws with you. You see shadows.
The brutality seems to have some weight to it. Like the first time you see a Big Daddy really laying into someone, I mean, it's relentless.
Yeah.
And there's power to it. Like you can tell it's this big fucking thing kicking the shit out of somebody.
Right. Yeah. I loved the reprogramming the bot, the little flying machine, and then having it just be your friend and tear through stuff. It was it was definitely impressive. You don't really hear many people talking much bad about it. The one thing I was the one thing that I was a little not as good as I had hoped, I guess, I don't know. It's so early, but the characters, they're like, at this point, anyway, at the start of the game, they're like people in like party hats or something like that. And there wasn't like the big daddies and that stuff was really cool and they were exciting, like different kind of enemies.
The splicers? Whatever, is that what they're called?
They're called splicers, yes.
Yeah.
And they're wearing like the masks?
Yeah. I mean, they were disturbing because of the masks, but it just seemed kind of like, okay, these are just like people.
Cannon fodder.
Right, yeah. But, I mean...
Well, to some extent, Mark, they are just people. I mean, that is part of the context of the game, is that you've come down into Rapture, which was this city under the sea that's fallen on... I'm trying not to spoil anything too much.
Yeah,
so something's really terribly gone wrong there, and there is a part of it that's just the citizenry, and then you'll also encounter some of the people who were in charge of the show.
I guess it's not that they're people. I guess it's like the character design, but I'm making a bigger deal of it than it really felt like to me anyway. Like the comment and the AI and all of that kind of stuff felt like it's working.
I haven't played it yet, but there have been criticisms that the combat wasn't as open-ended or as it was originally purported. That like it's a lot of knocking people into water and then shocking them. And like I've heard 2 or 3 people say that, and that like they thought there'd be more things they could do.
See, I'm surprised to hear that, because even from the movie the movie that plays at the end, and when they came here and demoed it, like they showed us doing some stuff with tripwires and reprogramming bots
and moving thing,
hiding and doing like putting bombs on stuff and then psychically.
Maybe the people that have posted that just aren't very imaginative.
It's quite possible.
Well, just as a knock onto that is the first combination of using.
Well, it even tells you to do it. He's like, because
right.
Like
okay. So it does that in the demo.
Yeah.
Okay. So that same way in the full game. It tells you, hey, do this. Put them into the water and shock them, and then it kills them. And they're trying to give you this idea of interaction between your plasmids and environmental stuff.
There's a lot of left hand, right hand, like zap him and shoot him, or zap him and hit him, and
yep.
Right.
Yep, and you can learn. I mean, you can learn all sorts of different ways to exploit that. This is the thing that I thought was so cool. I talked about before about the game is how do you want to approach it? Do you want to be a brawler? If you want to be a brawler, then you'll wind up improving certain sorts of plasmids. If you want to be a zapper and shooter, then you'll do a different combination. If you want to reprogram bots, you'll do a different combination. And every time you play through the game, you could do it differently and see different things happen.
It's a stunning looking game, though.
I mean, to me, so far, at least from the demo, I mean, it was the atmosphere, like from the way that it begins and leads you down into it, like it was just seeped in atmosphere. We talk about the old Metroid Primes, like that was what was great about those games was it was just dripping with, you just felt like.
I mean, if you really get immersed and you feel like you're really here, that's a huge part of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time you step off the bathysphere in Rapture, you are in Rapture, and it's really, and I think a part of that we're kind of missing or glossed over a little bit is the sound production in the game is phenomenal.
Well, yeah, I heard these old-timey tunes coming out of Greg Ford's bedroom, and I was like, oh, that's cool. They like licensed. Like,
that was just what he was listening to.
Probably. He listens to a lot of, Lawrence Welk,
the big time swing sounds of Lawrence Welk.
He's an old soul.
But it's cool. They got like, the endemic music, and it makes sense within that.
And you talked about the Big Daddy and the impact. Wait till you get later on in the game and you're close up to a Big Daddy who's, walking through the environment, and not only is the screen shaking, but literally the whole world. I mean, if you have a good 5.1 surround sound system and a sub, this thing is going to knock your socks off.
Nice.
Absolutely knock your socks off. All right, so BioShock. Anybody really going to get down on this? What was your character design? I think we're picking, huh?
Mm-hmm. I'm just sad that I got to wait to play it because Metroid first, and I'm also this weekend playing Folklore for review.
And
I've only scratched the surface. I mean, I think it's interesting. I like how it uses the 6-axis.
I was digging on that at TGS last year when we were pulling the spirits out.
It's not a huge game. It's kind of like, it is something for the more obscure, esoteric fans, but it's cool, and I'm looking at it so far.
Review game time is here, I can tell you, because I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons Tactics on the PSP.
You were excited about that, right?
I was excited about that.
It's like Diablo, right?
This is something this is actually a subject. This is a good point to breach a subject that people have talked about on the message boards. How is it that you preview a game and you can get excited about it, but then when the actual final product comes out, you're not so excited about it? Well, it's because when we get demos and previews from people, there's a whole.
Hey, we all saw the trailer to Transformers the movie, right?
Right, and even in a bigger sense, in video games, who knows what we're getting for a preview? Sometimes for preview code, we get an actual chunk of the game, and so we can get a really good idea of how different levels stitch together and what the overall experience is like. And sometimes we get the dreaded vertical slice, which is, here's a snapshot of what happens in the game. And that refers to like Lair a lot, because a lot of times in Lair we were playing, really condensed small pieces of it and just taken out of context.
They maybe should have just
well,
released
yeah,
that.
I mean, as I started playing the different slices of Lair, and they were varying qualities and greatly varying qualities, it made me wonder, well, maybe this is going to be all over the place.
Right, and so I had not had as much experience, and I guess maybe because of what they had presented to online or whatever, that's how that happened.
So
Same thing.
Back to
D&D Tactics. So D&D Tactics is everything a D&D fan, nerd, whatever you want to call him, is going to love
Does
in
it,
the
does it
actual...
calculate my THAC0 for me?
Yes, it does.
Oh,
but
nice.
let me tell you what, it
Nice.
is so drenched in like all that stuff. It's like you're sitting there trying to attack things and watching yourself miss, and then they miss, and
So
miss,
is
and
it-
then you miss,
so
and miss, and then they miss, and miss.
Is it a tactics straight up like Final Fantasy Tactics style game, or is it Diablo meets tactics?
No, dude. It is totally straight up tactics, grid spaced.
Okay.
Everything works really well. I mean, moving your characters around on the game field is very easily done. It is really pretty. It has a great
do you
3D
make your
engine.
own characters? Does it have
You
a
can-
plot?
You can create your own characters, and if you go into creating your own characters, it has the entire feats and
I mean,
accomplishments.
can I be
and-
like a dual class character, and does it get
I haven't tried to
does
create
it get
a
as
dual class,
complex
but yeah,
as D&D really gets?
It has every stitch of the D&D rules in there. And no, I didn't create my own characters because I started looking through all the pages to create them. I was like, oh my god, no, I'm going to take the pre-created characters. And it does have a story. Here's the problem that I have right now so far that I've gotten into it, which is that, and it's already out and there have been some reviews, and I'm working on the review for us, is that managing all of that stuff needs a really, really good interface to keep up with, well, what piece of equipment do I have equipped, and what would this piece of equipment do, and right now, how much shit am I carrying? Am I going to be encumbered if I get this? And it's so hard to like sort through all that stuff because the interface.
I'm kind of bored just hearing it.
Yeah, I told this is really horrible thing to say, and I think that D&D fans will really like that, and I'm going to review it from that standpoint. But every time I've sat down to play this game,
But are you a D&D fan?
you know what? Apparently not anymore.
So how can you review it from a D&D fan standpoint?
Because I think I think we can appreciate what a D&D fan would like. I used to like.
I have no idea what a D&D fan would like.
Really?
I played some D&D.
I did too.
Yeah.
And they
I
did,
did like
I played
disclosure.
15 years ago, but
Well,
a D&D
granted.
fan now?
they just announced 4th edition rules.
Hey, like the ad says, like, why pretend to be an elf in a room with no other people, on your MMO, on your lonely computer? Why not pretend to be an elf with friends?
Exactly.
Who's the real nerd? Who's the nerd now?
I mean, you raise a really good question because you're right. I mean, I haven't played D&D in probably 15 years.
I'll get the old DM screen out. We'll play this weekend.
I think that I can appreciate the fact that this feels like someone has a D&D screen out in your PSP and is doing all that stuff. And I think that that's what people will really jive to. So then I just have to review it as a game best I can. What I was going to say is that the sad part is every time I've sat down to play this game, I've wound up falling asleep.
I think the telling thing about this game is that they tack the name Tactics onto the end of it, and the signal of their intent that is this is a bit like Final Fantasy Tactics, guys.
Right.
Well, it's a lot like you know what? Actually, I agree with them doing that in this case because the game that they built is very much Final Fantasy Tactics with D&D stuff in it.
Right.
Which is cool, and I think that, and then D&D is all about the rule set and
So it's yet another Tactics reskin on PSP. After there being none, there's now loads coming out.
Well, that
with an all new original engine that's got great 3D, it's well lit, and has a built-in fan base of people who love the rule set that he uses.
right.
it's got to be better than that Lord of the Rings tactic game
Yeah.
for the PSP.
Yes, it does.
Nelly.
Well, anyway, the other game I played was I was at Sierra's Gamers Week earlier this
Oh,
week,
yeah.
and so all that stuff's embargoed. But the one thing that can't be embargoed because we've already played the hell out of it and everybody's been playing it is World in Conflict. And I finally got a chance to sit down and play a good bit of World in Conflict. As a matter of fact, we had a multiplayer tournament there of World in Conflict, which ironically Tom Price won a $1,000 omelet out of.
That's quite an omelet.
Yeah, that's quite an omelet.
What's in that omelet?
Whoa.
So we were at this place called the Parker in Palm Springs, and basically the $1,000 omelet.
That is a show on
That
Bravo.
the same place, except in the middle of the summer, it's really cheap and too freaking hot to even believe.
Yeah, I was in Palm Springs in April, and it was $106.
So it's
Yeah.
called $1,000 omelet because it costs $1,000.
It literally costs $1,000 and
Yeah.
has.
See, there's everything wrong with America right there.
For a second,
That's why they hate us, people.
For a second, I thought you were going to say the $1,000 omelet has a show on Bravo. I thought that's what you were saying. That that is a show I would watch.
I'd watch that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and this PR junket, which was clearly a junket.
Wait. So what's in the omelet? Like foie gras and truffles?
Well,
and
that,
shit?
yeah. So it was clearly that over the top that the winner got this thing, and it was an omelet, which was a little bit of hash browns on a plate, little scrambled eggs, about 2 lobster tails worth of lobster, and 12 friggin' ounces of beluga caviar dumped on top of it.
Did Tom enjoy it?
Well, I mean, you share that thing with everybody, right?
Oh.
But
It's fucking absurd.
tell me that does not just sound
about
disgusting.
This World in Conflict.
Yeah, World in Conflict, it's massive entertainment. It's the guys who did Ground Control and Ground Control 2, and they finally, I think, found the right formula for making
Was that an air traffic control game?
Yes, it was an air traffic control game. No, it was
Aerobiz
Only just for when the
sequel.
planes are on the ground.
right. That's all you're doing. Yeah, Roger. Taxiway B1 and 24R.
Hey,
you're
don't
clear.
knock it. There is a game like that bolts into Flight Simulator. There are some people who are very into that.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are. There's also like an air traffic control add-on for those games
Yeah.
if you're really into that. But if you're playing World in Conflict, what you're playing is a real-time strategy game. It's Ground Control where they started this idea was get rid of bases, get rid of manufacturing, and make it all... It's very much like Company of Heroes. I mean, that idea of let's get down to the tactics and not worry about all the economy and make this grand strategy game. Just have 2 teams squaring off against each other, fighting each other. And the comparison this game has had all along is Red Dawn because it's Soviet stuff fighting American stuff, mostly in
Red Dawn as in Dolph Lundgren.
No, that's Red Scorpion.
Very different.
but does it take place in the 80s like Red Dawn? Red Scorpion, by the way, would make an awesome fucking game. But
I don't think it takes place in the 80s. It's more like 90s or mid 90s. But man,
Is it an alternate reality where?
No. Well, it's alternate reality to the extent of like the Soviet forces are invading America. So it's just crazy.
the
we
Spin
played
Doctors are
multiplayer.
on the radio and stuff. Like, how does it set in the 90s?
Just the places.
Clinton and the okay.
I don't know, like the equipment.
All
The
right.
equipment. I mean, the big deal about the game is that it's equipment that you recognize. So, like, you've seen an Apache helicopter, you've seen an Abrams tank, you've seen like the big flying helicopter thing from Red Dawn that they get gunned down on when they're on their horses, whatever the hell that thing is, the Hind.
Yeah.
Anyway, you've seen all that stuff, so you're familiar with it. Whereas, like in Ground Control, the problem they had was that it was all sci-fi stuff, and you had no idea whether a laser tank was more powerful than a plasma launcher or whatever. I mean, who knows, right?
So what sets this RTS apart from
So we
all
played-
the other RTS?
We played multiplayer, and this game originally was a multiplayer-only game. They added single player, and the single player will do however it does, but it's cool because the effort they put into multiplayer really shines in that you can play it plays almost like a shooter in that there's 2 sides, and you keep people can jump in because you become like a air marshal or an armor marshal or an infantry marshal, and you can bring your troops into battle and then add them into the battle on your side, just trying to help out. So you have like this constant. I mean, it's really very like a team-based shooter game, except you're all playing a strategy game at the same time.
Cool. Okay.
Are there a lot? This is sort of an aside, but are there a lot? Has there been a sudden boom in RTSs recently, or am I just hearing more about them?
They all kind of blend together.
Company of Heroes kind of kicked off a new wave, and then there was
Supreme
Command and
Commander.
and Command and Conquer.
It seems like I'm just hearing. I don't know if it's because there's more coming to the consoles now, and they're really trying to make that happen again. But it seems like I'm hearing about a lot of new big AAA RTSs.
And then we started to see more on people like experimenting on DS and stuff as well, and I think that had a trickle down effect into.
But
PC
for these
revival.
grand RTSs, that's
There's
still
also,
something.
Also,
that
a game called StarCraft 2.
Oh wait,
Also
yeah.
that one.
Oh, I've heard of that
Also
one.
that
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
And the Grand RTS is still something that the PC is really well acclimated to, and it's part of its super core base of software titles.
Right.
Anyway, it was a blast. We had a lot of fun. People jumping in and out. You get to call in these. You gain tactical points by gaining ground and being successful, and you can call in these crazy attacks.
That's
So,
not.
like-
And this isn't coming to 360.
It is coming to 360.
Oh,
It's not coming to 360 at the same time, and they're not quite ready to show the 360 version yet, but it is coming to 360. But let me tell you, the DX10 version on PC is unbelievably gorgeous. Zoom in on the units all the way, and they're as detailed as an adventure game. It's
Wow.
a pretty damn impressive piece of hardware.
So what'd you play on the way down there?
I played the Dungeons and Dragons tactics and dozed off. That's what I had to play, man. You know, I'm trying to get those reviews cranked down. That's how it goes.
Shane, you been playing anything else this week?
So I wasn't with you guys last week, and I missed y'all very much. And I was spending 5 long, arduous days out in the rural Illinois.
Oh, yeah.
At my old grandparents' homestead.
Where you lost water.
Yeah, one night we didn't have any power, and another night we didn't have any water because the well dried up.
Yeah, power, I understand. Water, like
it was rough. No water, no restrooms. It was rough, and I probably wouldn't have survived it if not for the Harry Potter book you lent me, which was entertaining, and my handheld game console. So I played on DS a lot of the usual Planet Puzzle League. I also broke out Tetris DS, which I never really played that much of.
Did you get any pickup games of Planet Puzzle League to challenge you?
Your grandma.
Not only is there no Wi-Fi, my mom's computer has a 28 modem, so I couldn't even look at one up. So that was a winner.
Wow.
But actually, I played a lot of PSP, which is kind of weird. I don't usually play a lot of PSP, and I played all the way through Parappa for PSP, and I'm an old lover of Parappa. I love me some Parappa.
Right. And then, as we said, like 30 minutes later, you were done with that.
Well, then I'd wisely download all the remixes you can download off with your PSP, so I played the remix versions of all the levels as well. And then 20 minutes later, I was done with that. But I still love it. And I hope they revisit Jammer Lammy, because Jammer Lammy is my favorite PS1 game of all time.
Really?
So, yeah, it is.
Yeah. It wasn't until I saw you play it that I understood.
Like, I've always told people how great it is, and everyone's like, you're stupid. And like EGM gave it like 7s. I want to like kill those people. They're probably still here in the building, the people who gave it 7s. But like Mark, I was like, you watch me play Jammer Lammy, and I did convince you that like.
Well, I was so disappointed in that game when it first came out. I was so disappointed. I mean, it was cool aesthetically, just like
but the real depth of it isn't apparent, and you really have to play it for a long time to understand the depth of that game.
Yeah, exactly. I just didn't like the songs as much, and that's where it began and ended for me. And you were playing the fucking guitar on the controller. It was bizarre.
Yeah, and you have all the different effects, and still, I think that is one of the most creative music-based games ever made.
I have to go back and find this because I
can give you the same lesson I give him. So, but the big
because I love Parappa. I mean, I've been working so early.
Yeah. Yeah, my big PSP thing that I had a lot of fun with was the Metal Gear Solid digital novel, or as real, uppity Kojima fans such as you and I would call it, we would call it the Metal Gear Solid bande dessinée.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, of course.
If you haven't gotten this, it's really pretty cool. Actually, the art is amazing, and like it retells the story of Metal Gear Solid. Ashley Wood did all the art.
I'm excited for the second one.
Yeah, after playing this one, the absence of voices is upsetting because the voice work is so good in these games, and they're adding voices to the one for 2.
Voices, and just to fucking see the story of Metal Gear 2. Like on my way to that Metal Gear Solid 4 thing, I printed out a Metal Gear story fact. Right. There's a bunch of them on GameFAQs. This thing was like a printout, like 2 inches thick.
You remember like 2 years ago when I had never played MGS2 for some bizarre reasons, and I decided to finally play it and pay really close attention, and so like I wouldn't understand it all because like the whole idea is nobody understands the story. So like I loved it, loved the story, and I came in like with this newfound knowledge, being like, oh, you guys, like let me explain Metal Gear Solid 2 to you, and I tried, and
you never did.
I couldn't accurately convey the full scope of the narrative. So yeah, hopefully the second digital novel. Does that have a release date? Is it this fall?
No, I think it was at the event. It was TBD. I could be wrong.
So the first one was a while ago, right?
It was last fall, and it didn't do that well, and it's probably hard to find even, I would think, but it's definitely cool, and there's like a little game to it. I mean, you can just watch it, and like I was just watching it, but if you want, you can like go back and you can pause at any point, like move it around and look for hidden stuff, and like. Yeah,
I'll definitely check that before Metal Gear 4 just to get a refresher, and especially the Metal Gear Solid 2 since it leads right in.
Yeah.
But you were playing Lumines 2, though, I
was also playing Lumines 2.
And you're a Lumines hater.
I'm a Lumines 2 lover, and like I'll never get over the fact, and I'm gonna say this here, Lumines was wildly overrated by everybody except for me, who gave it a 7.0, and Lumines 2 fixes every single...
Completely wrong.
Lumines 2 corrects every problem with Lumines 1, yet nobody liked it, nobody bought it, and the franchise might be dead.
Hold on, no, let's hear him out. And what were the big problems with
the
Lumines
colossal
1?
problem?
Don't start this.
Yeah, it's a long...
No,
you can go back and read my review.
It's a freaking simple puzzle game. How can it have colossal problems?
So Shane has legitimate beefs with it, but he takes them to like a ridiculous extent.
Well, because I'm a serious puzzle game guy, and a puzzle game has to be really balanced and perfect and enjoyable in both a multiplayer and a single player way for me, and that game is not. The single-player game in Lumines 1 is intrinsically broken because you have to play for 45 minutes before it gets fun. there you go.
So your problem with Luminous 1 was that you had to always start over at the beginning of the round.
Yes,
that's the whole thing.
That's a huge problem, a colossal problem. Every other puzzle game lets you start on different levels. Like Tetris for Game Boy lets you do that, and like suddenly Luminous does it, and you guys enjoy playing the same boring ass shit an hour every time.
So
No
again,
thanks.
yeah, like I think I agree that's a legitimate thing, but not to the extent that you take it.
Well,
Like that game still like is unbelievably
Did you even
hypnotic.
play Luminous 2? Did you even try?
No, that's
Like, not only does it have
That's true.
that stuff, it has like better graphics. It has like you can make your own music. It has tons of stuff, but nobody cared. It was weird.
Yeah, I mean, I only just recently played the Xbox Live, the Luminous, on that, and I found it wasn't. I mean, I found the reason I loved Luminous was it was a great time and mind suck, for lack of a better word.
Right.
When you're on a plane or you just wanted to like forget where you were for a while. When I was at home, I was like, okay, I kind of played the shit out of this. I'd rather do something else, but I don't know. Maybe. So you're saying it's worth checking out? Isn't it kind of the same?
I mean, it kind of just replaces Luminous,
Right?
But now it's been marked down. If you didn't get it, I think it's a bargain bin find that you'll be surprisingly happy with. Yeah.
Dude, it's Luminous. How can you go wrong? It's like the perfect game to sit down and trance out to.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
John, any bargain bin finds you've been playing?
No, and there's a game that I wanted to talk about, and I can't remember the name of it. It's over my life. In the break, it's actually it's bizarre, and it's not something I do very often. But it was a game I downloaded on my phone.
Whoa!
And it was actually shockingly good. I think it's by Gameloft.
This
Punch-Out
from
game, is
the motherfucker who's now walking around with an E90 in his pocket.
But
or actually an E90 occupying his entire pocket if you've seen the damn
it's
thing.
a pretty huge phone. But it'll run on pretty much any Nokia Series 6. It'll run on most things, actually. But it's called Lords of the something, but it's like a hero-based real-time strategy game on a phone that's quest-based, and you have a hero, and you go and you collect your little guys as you go along, and you find a base, and you build a base, and you can build more troops, and you go and whack things, and
That sounds unbelievably complicated for a cell phone.
But it
game.
works really, really well. I was
Really?
like, yeah. The other thing is I downloaded. Do you remember The Incredible Machine?
Yeah.
You can get that for your phone now. I've forgotten what an awesome game that is.
Cool.
John's gone casual.
There's a Punch-Out game.
No, I've been doing a lot of sort of sitting in really boring meetings lately, and just sort of like sort of poking
It
through.
looks
The
like
only
you're
thing
checking your email.
Yeah, and I was just poking through the phone browser and downloaded a couple of things, and it was all right. The other thing I've been playing is Flat Out Ultimate Carnage.
Yes.
Is that what it's called?
Don't be ashamed.
I'm not ashamed. I've played the previous Flat Out, and
It's my favorite Scandinavian.
My
racing.
observation of previous Flat Outs was that it's redneck Burnout, and it still is redneck Burnout, but on 360, I don't know. I'm strangely addicted to it.
Are you addicted to the actual racing or to the mini games? Because I really like the
I'm addicted to
mini-games.
Carnage mode, which is the lots of different things. So there's and it's a lot like Flat Out 2 or whatever the last one was. So there's a rocket car where you have to fly through like an obstacle thing and then get up as high a speed and then throw the guy out the front window.
A
There's
rocket
a lot of that.
car.
The
It does
rocket
sound
car
like a
stuff.
redneck thing.
It's made by it's from like Iceland.
It's like Icelandic or something, but it has this like really like deep redneck vibe.
Yeah.
Like it's
It
all like
does.
muscle cars and pickup trucks, and like everything's out. Like all the majority of the races are out in sort of like Dukes of Hazzard type environments.
Maybe they went like Kojima and their team, like they went on a what's that Burt Reynolds movie, like a canoe trip.
A Deliverance.
A Deliverance, like
fact-finding mission.
exactly.
I can hear it now. This weekend only, don't miss it at a John Davis and Xbox. Jet cars and people launched out of the
I know.
It's funny. The series does get kind of a bad rap. It's very Walmart crowd. It became like $1 million based on the Walmart crowd.
It's weird. This
And
is
the logo does look exactly like Burnout's logo.
It's like it's on its third or fourth game, and like in my head, I still don't think of it as a franchise. Yet it clearly is, and I don't know why I've just dismissed it all this time. But it's actually pretty fun. I mean, it's not as finessed as Burnout has become. Like Burnout Revenge was like the handling was spot on, the graphics were gorgeous. The cars they waft around too much, and the satisfaction of like grinding a car against the side and making it explode. Like it doesn't have that. You know, in Burnout, when you get it just right, it makes you feel like you've squeezed a car till it bursts.
Right.
I don't quite get that. But there's destruction derby modes and rocket car modes and racing a school bus and there's still kinds of
there's zany things. Like I remember, the previous games you would like launch your driver at like a giant, bowling pins and stuff like that.
That kind of stuff. And there's things where there's a bomb in the car and you have to make it through the this sort of like, redneck outback thing in a pickup truck and try and get to the checkpoints before the bomb goes off. And I'm like strangely drawn to it. It's like, you were in my office the other day wondering what that noise was, and it was because I've left the 360 on all the time with flat out running.
Oh, John, we always knew you were a Shav at heart.
I can believe that this game is better than the Stuntman that's coming out. I think it probably is.
It's entirely possible.
It's
Yeah,
my official theory.
It's very well done.
Well, there you go. All right, Mark. Thanks for coming in, dude.
Anytime.
We'll undoubtedly see you and hear you on many future editions. But in this edition, when we come back, we'll have Patrick to talk about some Game Fest. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back for that.
Brought to you by the Entertainment Consumers Association. A single voice may not be heard, but a collective voice cannot be ignored. Speak up and keep your favorite games on the shelves. Join the ECA at www.theeca.com.
All right, we're back, and Patrick has joined us. He's settled in, wired up, ready to roll.
And I've got my passport.
And you've got your passport. You are now officially ready to leave the country.
Thank God.
John, what's been happening on the message boards out there?
I did find out what that game was called.
Excellent.
And the reason I couldn't remember is because it has the most derivative name ever created. It's called Rise of Lost Empires.
Yeah, I won't remember that in 5 minutes.
So it's like they mashed up but I was just showing Shane. You said it looks a bit like Fire Emblem, right? A little bit.
Like the graphics a bit, and then the gameplay, a little more simplified.
Yeah, it's like a hero-driven RTS kind of mechanic. You click on the bad guys, and anyway.
If we eliminated "of" from game title vernacular, that would be
Rise of the Lost Age of Empire something.
Yeah, I mean, what would they do?
On the boards, we talked last week about funny things we've heard in EB.
Oh, yes, that was awesome.
I wasn't here. I've already told my stories of Honky Dong Country and Kitty Dong Racing.
Some offense was taken at the dissing of EB employees.
I wasn't here to defend us. You weren't you an EB employee? Like a district manager?
Why wouldn't Garnett be the first man over there?
Because I've heard way too many of them.
It seems we have some EB employees posting in the message board who are a little upset that people were like, well, it's just part-time jobs. They're not, they don't need to know everything. They're just there earning some money.
Look, let me tell you what. While we were at E3, fine, you want to pull that? I'll pull this. We walked into an EB.
Hey, I'm not pulling it.
Where was it? What's the name of that place right there next to Santa Barbara? The
Santa Monica Mall?
We walked into that Santa Monica Mall, into the EB, and it was the most disgusting store I have ever walked into in my life. First of all, it smelled like a hamburger joint because the three dudes who were working there were all sitting down behind the counter like having lunch out in front. And it stank to high heavens. And the whole place was just disheveled and looked like someone was running a junk meat there.
But Garnet, that doesn't mean they don't know their shit. It doesn't mean that they can say E.T. on 2600 was a decent game that doesn't deserve the bad rap that it got. For example, that minus 273 heard.
EB didn't when Atari 2600 ET came out.
Here's one. The N-Gage is great.
Wow.
The N-Gage is great.
Wow.
The DS is just a fad.
The DS is just that I've heard. Wow. That I have heard, actually. The other thing I've heard, it is funny, you hear, crazy things from customers when you're in EB. And, one of them was...
There's another thread, actually, and we'll get to that in a second.
Let me tell my best story, because, I worked at EB for many years, and a customer came in asking for Star Tropics for Super Nintendo. And I was there to tell him, sorry, dude, they never made that. They made Star Tropics for NES. They made a sequel for NES. Never made one for Super Nintendo. It would be cool if they did. And he got immediately really angry at me. And he was like, no, I played it. It's out there. I was like, maybe you were thinking of another game. I named some other games he might have thought was that game. And he got more and more angry, riled up, cussed me out and ran out of the store. Mm-hmm. And I was like, good luck, dude.
And he went to Best Buy and he bought Star Tropics and SNES.
So there was this whole sort of slew of things that they had overheard, Luminaire 28 heard the PS3 doesn't play PS1 games.
Of course. We usually get requests for great game names. Do you guys have Relative Fear? What? You know that survival horror game from Relative Fear. They're looking for Resident Evil.
Yeah. Wow.
Mousepad 42 heard someone told a guy to wait at 5 a.m. to make sure he got an Elite SKU 360 when the store didn't open till 10.
Was that Luke who told him that?
Nice. Blue Bags was told that he wouldn't get hard-boiled on his PS3 copy of Stranglehold unless he pre-ordered it.
That's probably true. Actually.
Bowley was told the same thing about the Bluetooth headset with Warhawk. Shanana Toot was told that Heavenly Sword is also coming to 360. And Hypernova was told that Deus Ex is not pronounced Deus, it's pronounced Due.
Due sex.
I've heard it called Deuce
Someone
Ex.
tell Warren Spector.
So, in response to this, Monkey King posted funny things from EB employees about customers.
Oh boy.
You know,
Oh boy. I have to go find that thread.
it's not very long right now. One of my favorites was Go Kiki Fast OK, which is a great name. Someone tried to trade in a third-party controller for, I can't remember which system, that had clearly been eaten by a dog.
Nice.
When you
this
guys
wire
looking there-
naturally frayed.
Yeah, and did you guys were there when they were pretty aggressively doing trade-ins? Did you guys
Oh,
ever see any
absolutely, yeah.
wacky
Oh, yeah.
trade-in shit coming in?
I remember people trading. One guy traded in a game and he left some drugs in his game. So he came back the next day. He's like, "Yeah, the game I traded, I can have it back." That was a good one.
Sweet.
Yeah.
The one we had a lot of problem with was be like people who would buy like a shrink wrap machine and then they'd go buy games and then they'd open up the game and they'd pick like a piece of drywall and slap it in there and then close it back up and shrink wrap it and want to return it.
That's creative.
Would it work?
Well, yeah, a lot of times it would work because if people didn't open the,
That's why they don't take shrink wrap product now, right? Yeah,
that's probably part of the
Even if
reason.
they know it's stolen, like they'll just tell you to go outside, unwrap it,
Yeah.
bring it in, just
Yeah.
as long as as long as we can verify it.
Oh. A lot of the boards actually right now are preoccupied with talking about Bioshock. And
Bioshock.
A lot of Bioshock. One thing that did come out of it, there's a lot of frustration from PC gamers about the demo situation.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, you spend some time with both 2K and what are they called now? Not Irrational anymore. They got homogenized.
2K Australia,
2K
2K Boston.
Boston.
Yeah, that's a much snappier name. I mean, did they talk about why the PC demo is after the game?
no, we haven't gotten an explanation. I don't think the GFW guys have gotten a satisfactory explanation
Seems
either.
like
They said something about the new drivers are coming, but that just sounded like doublespeak, so it's just not ready.
I think it's real simple that they had enough bandwidth to do one or the other and get it certified and out ahead of time, and they chose 360. It's a 360 lead game. I mean, I'm sorry, PC gamers. This game is a 360 game.
PC gamers
first.
get Steam.
Yeah, I think it's Steam.
Yeah, it'll do well on PC. A lot of PC gamers will buy
It will do great on PC, and it looks beautiful on PC. But I think the relationship is everyone thinks, oh well, Warren Spector, it's a PC game first, but it's really genuinely being thought of as a 360 game first.
Yeah, I think it's mostly just like PC owners, like, of course they're going to buy this game. Like 360, you have to sell it a little bit more. You have to sell this experience. I mean, it's getting so
That's
hyped in
probably-
the game press, but like the other people who are just going to dick around on Xbox Live, you kind of have to sell this game a little bit more.
I think that's a good argument too.
They're pushing
I'd buy
that demo really hard.
They are.
It's on like every Blade where there's a promo spot right now. I had a lot of notes, which as you can see, I spilt coffee all over my notes.
I was actually going to ask, like, what the hell are you still using this for?
Because all my notes for this, so the only one that left that I can read, which is actually quite a good one, DJNA has a thread called Favorite Developer New Genre, which is, think of a studio that you really like and that they're associated with a particular type of game, and what would you really like to see them do? He suggested he'd love to see Valve try a real RPG.
I can't argue with that.
Yakety would like Zipper to take a crack at car combat.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that has potential, definitely. They
Multiplayer.
definitely have the multiplayer down.
Strokes Guy 88 said he'd like to see Bungie have a crack at something like a more Graw-like tactical shooter. This is a thread that's growing a lot, but I figured it'd be a nice one for us to
Actually,
jam
that
on a little
like
bit.
it might wouldn't be a shock if Bungie was doing something like, considering the guy that heads up
Graw.
Graw just left to go work
Yeah.
at Bungie. So
Yeah.
maybe you're getting exactly your wish.
You get a lot, and you get a lot of these guys moving around amongst studio to studio, and you see that kind of cross pollination happening like that. So
Well, and once in a while you do see a studio branch out do something weird, like when Polyphony did Omega Boost on PS1. I mean, those are guys who
I love that game.
They'd only done racing games ever,
Yeah.
and they made like this
Great game.
space shooter, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it was it was a little simple, but it was pretty.
Yeah, it was very pretty.
Yeah.
what would you want, John?
I don't know. I was just thinking. I was hoping one of you guys would go first.
Do you have one?
I was able to excavate an example.
You were, yeah.
Shane, do you have one that you would like pick out there?
It's tough. I mean, it's sad. Years and years ago, Tetsuya Mizuguchi, the head of Q at the time, he was still at Sega, and he was finishing up Space Channel 5-2, and I asked him what he really wanted to do, and he said he wanted to make a traditional RPG, like a Japanese RPG, but with like his style. I thought that would have been like the best thing ever, and it never happened. So,
oh wow,
Miz, if you're still gonna ever come back to making games, you should try that.
That would be damn impressive.
Yeah, because like with his artistry and the music and stuff, I think it'd be cool.
How about you?
I'm gonna have to pass for the moment because none of the folks that are coming to mind I have anything that I'd like to see id Software do something that pushed them to do something beyond just
Rage.
I thought they were going to do
Beyond-
something different. The way they talked up this game was it was going to be. I mean, I know they're adding racing elements or whatever, but I don't know. Plus
like
the
to-
name, Rage. What
Yeah.
the fuck?
Right.
Yeah, can you
Another
be more
form-
generic, please?
Yeah, please.
Right. So something beyond just a technology demo. I mean, you talk to those guys, and a lot of times you can sense that there's like some spark there and some genuine ability to do some more creative stuff, but it always becomes about the engine. Always becomes about the engine.
And it kind of sounds like they might be doing something like they're opening up a second team. Like they've always been one game, one product, everyone's behind it. But
Oh, I know what I'd like to
starting
see.
to branch off.
I'd
Anyway.
like to see Infinity Ward do a third-person adventure.
Oh really?
Yeah, I'd like to see Infinity Ward branch out and do an action adventure game of some sort in third person.
Yeah, I mean, with me, I think it's more actually people whose games I always actively seek out. I just wish they would do more.
Yeah.
I'd love to see something new from Warren Spector again.
I just
know
like
he's
to, I just like
working
to see
on stuff.
something from
Yeah,
Warren Spector.
I mean, I know he's working on stuff, and I just really want to see what it is.
he's got what the John Woo game or
There's that, but he's also
and there's
he's got-
also his like Deus Ex like new envisioning
Yeah.
of that concept.
and he's working with Disney now as well.
Yep.
I've got another one. I went to Fumito Ueda, the guy who made Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. I'd love for him and his team to get a lot of money and a lot of time to make a really ambitious game that isn't subtractively designed, that is instead like has tons and tons of stuff in it, like blows me away. Instead
But
of just,
what
like,
different genre would it be in?
It doesn't matter. Just like a game where like they don't just focus on doing one thing well, which is what they did with Ico and Shadow of the Colossus.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
No.
Cool. Everything else I have had coffee all over it. I can't read it.
So it's been
Just
caffeinated.
muddle through it.
no way to decaffeinate it now.
Right.
It's fine. It's ready. We're ready for us to move on to Seattle anyway. So, Patrick, how was it earlier this week? What's Game Fest all
How
about?
was the gaming festival? That sounds so exciting with their clowns.
Doesn't it though? No, it's actually really, really, really fucking boring. I mean, there were a lot of interesting things that came out of it. Game Fest there are no games. It is not a fest. It is actually a lot of slides with C++ on it.
Ooh.
It's this thing that Microsoft throws over here. It's kind of just like they get a bunch of developers together, and it's not
So
like,
it is specifically a Microsoft event.
It is a Microsoft event that focuses on their products, their software, what they're pushing, like their software development kits, what's coming, and that sort of thing. And they have a lot of panels focusing on like how to best utilize like disk compression. Like I thought maybe I went in on the panel on disk compression thinking maybe they'll talk about they're working with DVD and they're starting to hit that limit. No, it's just C++ for like an hour and a half.
Wow.
But there were a lot of interesting things that came out of it. You just had to wade through a lot of the crap to get to it. Chris Satchel, who heads up he's the general group manager at Microsoft, so he's doing like the XNA initiative, which is a really interesting push by them. And that was actually the only game thing that came out of Game Fest was they had these 20 games that had been made by these indie developers, and it was part of this Dream Build Play contest they'd come up with, and they were giving the top spot an Xbox Live contract and $10,000. And what they ended up doing was it was funny because Chris Satchel brings out these two guys to show off their games, and I think Game Videos is going to be putting up stuff on them really soon. They're really, really, really fucking cool. Like this one's called Blazing Birds, which is this robot badminton game. It's really, really strange. And the other one is called...
Hold on, that by itself is awesome. It's called Blazing Birds, and it's a robot badminton game.
It seriously is a 2D...
I like robots and badminton.
Yeah. It's a very underrated sport that you wouldn't think would become an Xbox Arcade.
Dude, you just like getting your hands on a shuttlecock.
That's you.
I was going to say that's you're very, very firm in your own sexuality to be able to say I like badminton.
I grew up playing badminton.
I enjoy shuttlecock.
Me too. Actually,
You're British.
I'm British. We
yeah.
played a lot of badminton.
Yeah.
Very
I'm
strong.
not-
Very strong wrists. Comes in useful.
I also grew up playing croquet. Am I secretly British? I might be.
Where did you grow up?
Kentucky. I was the only kid playing badminton.
Kentucky's renowned for its croquet play.
He must have gotten this shit kicked out of him on a regular basis. Come here, badminton boy. I want to hit you with this croquet mallet.
You played by yourself in the backyard. Was it sad? Did you have a sad
I
childhood?
played with all my friends.
But he too developed a strong wrist.
Continue with what was the other game?
The other game was this Project Dishwasher, which is, and both these games are built
I
by
love dishwashers.
It's literally about, he used to be a dishwasher, hated it, and he wanted to make a game where a dishwasher became like a fucking crazy samurai warrior and like took on this crazy government corporation thing. But anyway, the interesting thing is like they bring out these two guys. I know.
It's a Tarantino movie.
It's fucking weird. And like, but they bring out these two guys and they build these games completely by themselves. They did the art, they did the programming, they did the testing, and they're totally playable and they're really fun. But the thing is that Chris Satchel brings out both of them, and they show the games off and stuff like that. And he's like, and now we're going to announce the winner. And the guys didn't know beforehand, and they give it to the guy that did Blazing Birds, and you just saw the guy who did the Project Dishwasher, like, the color drain out of him on stage. He's like, they brought us both out just so they could say that I didn't win. And then they ended up giving him a contract too.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of like a bait and switch, but I mean, you felt bad for the guy. And like when I talked to him afterwards, like he was like, yeah, I kind of wanted to walk off stage. Like that was really shitty of them. But then I got $10,000, so it kind of works out.
Didn't stay mad for long.
So they gave contracts to those two, and then they gave contracts to 4 other games, I believe, and they're all pretty far off, but they're all eventually going to be on Xbox Live Arcade, and it sounds like Microsoft's going to throw some resources at them, and they're all cool, and they all built them on this XNA thing, and they did it by themselves, and it's just really impressive and kind of inspiring just to see that like these guys did it all in their spare time. None of them are developers; they picked this shit up and they fucking made it work. So
what was the vibe among these guys? I mean, were they? I mean, obviously they must have been sky high, right? The guy really wasn't all that upset, was he?
It actually seemed like the money and the contract were less cool to them as much as like they got to come to this thing where a bunch of developers, a bunch of like fellow nerds were playing their game. They got to see people playing their game, and it wasn't just you're inviting your friends to see the new build that they've seen your game for the past year anyway. Like they got to see people playing their game, enjoying it, and like getting that kind of feedback that you don't get at being an indie developer. And like that was like they just hovered around the little booth area they had set up and were just like watching people play. And like they said the most frustrating thing was like you wanted to take the controller away from people and show them how they're supposed to be playing and stuff like that. And a lot of the games look rough, and I think Microsoft was really pushing it on getting 20 of those games out there because a lot of them didn't make any sense or were broken and buggy, but it was still impressive to see what they had. And what was actually more interesting that came out of Game Fest was not so much that, but sitting through a lot of the really boring panels. During the keynote, Chris Satchel used a term that Nintendo has used a lot to talk about how they're working with the Wii and Nintendo DS, and they've always specifically used the word disrupt. And they want to disrupt the industry, and like that's that whole like blue ocean thing that Reggie's always going on about. And like Chris Satchel used the term disrupt. Like he said that we need to figure out how to disrupt the industry, and like I'd argue that Nintendo already figured that out.
Yeah.
But Microsoft wants to figure out how to do it from their perspective. So I guess it's kind of interesting in the respect that it's kind of reflective of the ripple effect of the Wii, and like.
But what is their answer on how they're going to? I think it's huge that Microsoft has been so threatened now that they feel like they have to like start adopting that same terminology so that they can be taken in the same sentence.
And it's going to be like turning an oil tanker for them, because they're like, you look at what they've got coming up. You got Halo in a month, and then over the next few months you got things like Mass Effect and Alan Wake. They're all like hardcore games that will sell okay, but they're not disruptive.
Seen it. That's very disruptive. No, that's what they're thinking.
I mean, that is literally what they're thinking, and like the kind of
is
attitude,
it really? No, that is what they're thinking.
I mean, so far, like, I mean, they showed this graph where like it was basically like, as time goes on, you expand to the casual market, and like I don't understand how that's any different than what they've always done, as opposed to Nintendo, who did that from the outset.
It's actually, talking about Nintendo and disrupting and casuals. Just today, we taped a segment with 2 actual alpha moms who are being courted by Nintendo.
Caught in the wild.
Yeah, for EGM Live, and it was really interesting, and that'll be next week. So if you're interested in hearing from real alpha moms and whether the lengths that Nintendo goes to.
Are alpha moms hot?
I was going to ask if
very
they
fine,
were...
very fine, very nice ladies.
Okay.
I wonder, was there a MILF?
They're married ladies. They have kids. It's
I'm just saying.
not what that's about. No. Listen to hear the lengths that Nintendo's going to court moms. It's interesting.
Okay.
So next week.
That's on EGM Live next, and the one that's out on Monday?
Yeah.
Okay.
The question about the disruption thing is that not being there, I wasn't getting any sense that they were actually doing anything other than just throwing the frickin' word around to be throwing the word around.
See, I'm starting to wonder, like, just looking at what Sony's doing with something like Home, and what could potentially be bolted onto Home. If you look at all the initiatives that Sony's working on right now, and think of Home as a base for that, you could start thinking about because there's a lot of these avatar-based systems launching right now, but there's some on. That are taking things like Habbo Hotel and using them as a basis for lots of things on different platforms. Mm-hmm. There's a thing it's in beta right now called Awomo, A World of My Own, that Virgin have invested in, which is a Second Life type environment for launching like a FileFront or Direct-to-Drive type launcher. It's like you go and download real games like GameTap, but you do it by wandering around a lobby. And then Home, and you think, hey, I wonder why they're really working on Little Big Planet. I mean, yes, it's a game, but what if they brought little bits of that into Home, and you could go sit down at a table in a public area with some toys and make a little game and then call people over to try it.
So it's kind of like building the tech.
Build the tech and build all the relationships, but then you have something genuinely disruptive, which is, hey, we have this UI and it's got a game.
I think the only way to really make Home disruptive, as opposed to just being like an ancillary software download, is like when you buy a PS3. Like once Home is completed, when you turn on your PS3,
that's
you
what
should
it does.
Boot into Home.
Yeah. None of the XMB.
That is the PlayStation interface, and if you choose to turn that off and use the cross media bar, then that's what the hardcore is going to do.
The more shit they put in cross media bar, the more I'm not surprised that a lot of people don't understand what a PS3 can do.
No, I mean like if you were to boot into Home, the first thing you did was create your avatar, like. Yeah. That would be genuinely very impressive.
Sony right now, one of the things they're legitimately worried about strategically is that not many people are signing up for PlayStation Network. I can tell you exactly why that is. Because signing up is in the bottom right-hand corner. You have to cycle through about 50 things to get to it. And then you don't know which one to click on.
If it was a
pain
in the ass
button when you turned it on, hey, you're online. Do you want to sign up? Maybe that would work. And Home could do that for them.
Exactly.
I think we're maybe also underestimating the impact of hardware. I'm not sure that something can be disruptive as long as you're holding a 6-axis controller in your hand, because that is an inherently hardcore gamer's sort of controller, just like the Xbox controller is. I mean, there is something. But look at you guys are rolling your eyes, but there's something about that Wiimote that when you're holding it,
right?
Because it's like every remote you held.
The DS is not far off a controller. It's got 4 face buttons, 2 shoulder buttons, a D-pad, and a touchscreen. I mean,
it's how you
got a lot of
it.
It's how you approach that interface.
And the touchscreen brings a lot to the DS because you can play very many of those games that are simple games with just the stylus, and you don't have to get involved in the shoulder buttons.
You can play a lot of games with one button. Just because the thing has 12 buttons on it doesn't mean you have to use all. Disruption comes from execution as much as anything. I mean, I agree the Wiimote is a nice.
I think the hardware is part of the execution.
I mean, it's still like Sony and Microsoft. They have to get over the hurdle of the controller, but it's in their execution they can get over that hurdle, whereas Nintendo bypasses that entirely.
I don't
the genius of the Wii and the DS.
But hardware is part of the package.
In terms of getting to disruption, Microsoft is baby steps at this point, really, and it's good they're noticing they have to do it because.
Did he give any solid examples? I mean, I saw his chart with the different colored bubbles on how to move the industry forward.
No, there were no hard examples. Like one of the things that he was saying was Satchel was saying like this is part of figuring out how we do this. Like at this point, like with Sony so far behind, with Nintendo so far ahead in the casuals, Microsoft really doesn't have to do too much. Like they can just coast. They're gonna coast on like leading the generation from the hardcore perspective for the time being. So
to be huge, they need to sell 50, 75 million 360s.
Right.
And they'll sell 4, 5, eventually maybe 10 million copies of Halo. But that's not going to get them to 75 million installed base on the hardware.
I don't think they have any idea how to do it without changing the controller. But by changing the controller, you need people to buy software. Like you created something that's not built into the machine, and that's the inherent problem. Is like even if they come up with like some wand-like device, you still have to get people to buy it.
I mean, as much as they might want 360 to become something that it's not, I think it kind of is what it is, and that's successful. And like maybe they shouldn't try too hard to break it.
Yeah.
So do they really want to go at this point and try and run this machine at the Wii?
Yeah,
really,
might not be a good idea.
That doesn't make that much sense to me because the Wii has already established itself as that great already mountain of.
And the biggest challenge to the Wii still is going to be the PS2. Did you see there was a story in MCV today about there being like a Wii type controller coming maybe for the PS2?
Yeah, it's made by a third party, but that's still a great move. Like someone that should have been the first thing like Sony did was like throw out a bunch of mini games with a wand controller.
We talked about that a whole year ago on this damn show. We did this exact conversation.
It's an obvious conclusion. But back to Game Fest, another thing that I read coming out of it was about the whole Mark Rain and whether or not you're going to be able to open the network to allow.
Well, there's this weird thing that they kept alluding to, and they kept alluding to it as an acronym. It was always it's this called the Xbox server platform, and basically what it does is that's how MMOs are going to operate. Like a server platform is when you are running running through the 360, but it's not running on Microsoft servers. Like you have to set up the servers, you have to monitor the content going through the servers. So this is how more massive user generated content will work, which is where I became confused, and I couldn't really ask my questions. This was developer stuff, and they were asking very technical things. But like as a gamer looking at why a game like Unreal Tournament 3 isn't coming to Xbox 360, if we're taking it at the base of being because the user-generated content is the roadblock, this seems to solve that. But I think what the caveat with that is Microsoft needs to approve why you're using the Xbox server platform. So even though technically there's the ability to run this large user-generated content on separate servers, it's running out of Microsoft's eye, and they know that, but they need to approve what you're doing.
So if you want to do things on Xbox Live as a publisher that are outside of Microsoft's control, you need their permission to go outside.
You need their permission to do it, and so my understanding is even though technically they can do exactly what they're going to be doing with Unreal Tournament on PS3, you can't do it now because Microsoft hasn't approved it. And that's what Shane Kim told me and John when we interviewed him at E3, was basically Microsoft looks at Xbox Live as something where they don't put the responsibility onto the publisher. They keep it in Microsoft's control. And as soon as you take it out of Microsoft's control, you run into whole, quote-unquote problems.
Part of that is because, you can't, it'd be if you could have control as a publisher over how people use the online abilities of Xbox 360, then they could conceivably, you could play without having an Xbox Live Gold account, and you have to have an Xbox Live Gold account to play Unreal Tournament online.
Right.
On your Xbox 360.
Right.
Right.
And so it's kind of a strange, even the guys that, Ninja Bee, that were working on Band of Bugs, they wanted from the beginning to include a level editor in their Xbox Live Arcade strategy game, and Microsoft told them absolutely not. You guys cannot do this. We're not sure how we're approaching user-generated content yet, so you guys can't do it. They said fuck it, and they made it anyway. And then when they showed Microsoft an updated version of the game at GDC this year, they showed Microsoft that they had this working level editor, and Microsoft flipped out because they don't. Their concern is people are going to make penises and vaginas with the structures in the game. And they would. And Microsoft's concern is not that what people are going to do. It's assuming they are going to do it because someone will do it.
Right.
And how do you control that?
Well, what's interesting, there was a quote, I'm not sure who it was from, you might have it there, and it was defending Xbox Live's closed nature in talking about PSN, calling it supposedly open.
Yeah,
it's allegedly
Shane Kim called it
open.
The wild frontier or something like that. Where there's nobody doing anything on PSN. I don't think that's true.
Chaos reigns.
Yeah,
on PSN,
and
apparently
it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I guess if Unreal takes off and this user-generated thing turns out to be a big deal, maybe we'll see Microsoft change their tune. But what actually was more interesting was we ran a story last week talking about this whole hard drive issue with the 360 and how Microsoft seems to be very much on the fast track to saying that yes, games can require it, and they confirmed what we already pretty much knew was that MMOs can require it. What's weird about how they approached it is the requirements they're putting in. There are two things, and this is very confusing, and I'm not sure I even have it straight, and if I don't have it straight, I don't know how these developers are going to go on implementing it. But the first thing is, on the box has to be what the hard drive is going to, there has to be a size on the box. On the MMO, World of Warcraft or whatever, or Call of Duty 4, which looks like it might be requiring the hard drive, it has to say, you are going to need 2 gigs of space to install it, even if the game doesn't actually install 2 gigs of space. So, I guess what they're saying is, you have to plan for patches and stuff like that, and it has to be all inclusive. And the game will take up 2 gigs of space, even though it's not using it, it's just blank.
Yeah.
But what's weirder about that is that Microsoft was talking about, well, there are going to be times when that space does change. If you buy the game 2 years later, maybe that initial download is different than what's on the box, but what's on store shelves says 4 gigs, but you really need to download 6 gigs. Right. It gets more confusing. So their solution to this is that technically the games have to require it be 4 gigs. So it has to fit in 4 gigs, even if what you're supposed to download is 6 gigs. So their recommendation, if you want to keep the 4 gigs and you only want to use the 4 gigs on your hard drive, you have to downscale the game.
What?
Like graphically.
So now they're telling developers,
this
you know what?
is-
We don't really want your game to be as big as it is, could be. Don't put your full effort into it. Just rip some shit out.
Well, they said from like going forward with MMOs, you should plan to have a downscaling feature in there. And
Going forward with hardware, you should plan to be up to date with the latest technology. Frickin' retards.
One of the slides, this is directly their wording from the slide, and actually they kept calling it degrading. Like, you should degrade the experience. And instead of like, I was like, what the fuck are you, like, did anyone like filter your speech? Like, why don't you just say scale? Like, that doesn't sound so bad. But he used the word 5 or 6 I degrade the experience for the user. And directly from the presentation was degrade the experience with low-res models and textures.
Oh, excellent. Awesome.
Degrade could be replaced with fuck.
Yes.
Place certain areas off limits.
Excellent.
Or
Fantastic.
stream assets from the server, creating slower loading.
That's awesome.
So these were suggestions on how to make your game smaller initially, not on how to make a game run on a core system without a hard drive.
No.
The implication is this game will not run on a core system.
Yeah,
without a hard drive.
they said that right now, subscription-based MMOs are the only games that will be allowed to do this.
Here you go.
So not GTA.
Not
Well, how do you know?
They,
Who knows? We could see GTA reclassified as a subscription-based MMO. But you buy a subscription when you buy the box.
well, and what was interesting was someone brought up, like, well, what about
But wait, so if they've already eliminated core, why and the
Core is not eliminated.
well, no, they've eliminated core from this this strategy.
Right.
So then the next grade up is a box with a 20 gig drive. Mm-hmm. Why do they need to put a 4 gig cap on that?
Because
Why not?
because Xbox 360 is the home of the degraded next-gen experience.
For some reason, they think that you have to have, like, this. They think the user has to be aware of, like, what they need to set aside for it on the box. But
No one gives a shit.
Yeah, no one cares, and like
No one wants to know. Just make it work.
And they said they did say, like, the guy that was doing the panel did say that, like, this isn't final. This is not part of the software development kit yet. Like, this is kind of our initial. This is like their rough draft of, like, their pitch to Microsoft on how to do this. So hopefully this changes.
The solution to this shit is so easy. I mean, it's like any other time you're hard drive limited in this kind of environment. You just have to do some sort of TiVo-like thing, right?
Right, it'll say, well, I mean, like, if you've got a 20 gig drive, presumably you're not going to need a 20 gig download at any point, and it just looks at the available space on your hard drive and says, hey, we need to download 6 gigs worth of stuff and your drive is full. Do you want me to open the thing where you can delete stuff?
Which is really difficult to find in the interface. But yeah, and like it just and someone else asked, like, all right, they were very specific about this only will work for subscription-based games. So someone's like, well, what about, like, Guild Wars? Like, I mean, I know NCSoft signed with Sony, but, like, a game like Guild Wars where there's no inherent subscription, you're just buying new content, and that's how they generate their money. And they basically said, like, we're not extending this to those types of games yet. So this will only be subscription-based games.
It seems like they're clinging on to control for whatever.
seems to
I mean,
me like
whatever
they're
the
still
reason is behind the
struggling.
scenes, but
Well, and like
it all seems to be feeding into your point of justifying the existence of gold.
Right, and I thought that the comments from Shane came about PSN were, I thought, kind of out of line, like calling it, like, you know, allegedly open and like the wild frontier. It's like, you know, why not just, like, stick to your own and don't try to criticize a system that actually is less limited, and, you know, and
Well, and the thing about this is, like, it's not even helping justify gold because MMOs won't require that you're part of the gold service.
because you have to buy
I think
a
what we're
separate
seeing
subscription.
Right.
is the tip of the iceberg of an internal struggle at Microsoft as things continue to change over how to handle the fact that we introduced the core. We had a plan with core. There's probably a group of people who still are dedicated to the core is our vehicle to getting to price point X, which is 149. And now there's another crowd that says, look, you know, we're getting to a point in the technology where, like we told you, we shouldn't give up the hard drive.
The problem will be when, like, the games that are really important, like the GTAs or the Halos at one day, those are the games that
Right.
don't run on the core. That's the problem.
Right, absolutely.
It seems like there seems like an internal conflict within Microsoft between, like, marketing and, like, the hardware guys, or, like, the hardware guys are saying we need to push forward on this if we want those big games to be running properly and have the right experience on 360.
Well, on that same time, Patrick, it's a hardware guy who stood here in this office and told me 8 months ago that we will always be behind core because he's the one who gave me that whole line about core is our vehicle to getting to 149.
But we know constants change. Like, remember the old cap on Xbox Live Arcade games? It was tiny, and then, like, they realized we have to change this.
Yeah.
You know?
And they did address that at Game Fest and said that there's no plan, despite games like Warhawk coming along, that they're not going to change that. And actually, one of the quote that they said was, the 150 megabyte cap really lets you focus on the innovation.
But when the BioShock demo is 1.1 gigs, right? Is that what it is?
1.3.
All the demos are like over a gig now.
When you're downloading a demo that is like a quarter the size of the the DVD, it's like, why limit Xbox Live games?
Well, you see, Shane, because.
That's really it. It's more just why, because
Okay.
there's really no good justification
It's
for it.
part of the degraded next-gen experience you can love and enjoy on the Xbox 360.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens, and they did not address anything but MMO subscription type games, like what happens with Call of Duty 4. Like, that was not an accident that storage required was on those box arts. That was just a slip up.
You slip up or not, I actually will be surprised if this fall we see something like Call of Duty 4 with storage required on the store shelves, because there's been no commitment to it.
What if Halo comes to the store shelves with that sticker on it?
It won't.
Okay.
It won't.
No.
There's just it won't. I mean, there's no before this can change, somebody has to come up with some sort of plan to handle how the whatever percentages of people of early adopters bought the core. I mean, how do you handle those guys then? Do you tell them, you know what, really, we know you were an early adopter, we know you were an early supporter, but you're fucked, and if you want to keep on enjoying games, you have to go buy a hard drive. And by the way,
they save face. They make that hard drive fucking reasonable to buy.
that would be a great alternative, because right now they bend you over the table.
That's what I would have always said. If they're going to drop the core and it's going to be bad. It's going to be a PR disaster. But if they drop the core, but then I don't know, offer a rebate or something to a free 20 gig to anybody that's bought a core, you solve the problem instantly.
Absolutely.
They
Yeah.
won't do it though.
I think sooner or later they do have to address this question, and it goes back to that division between, are we trying to get down to 149 and disrupt the market and have it with the core unit, or are we trying to be a high-end next-gen console competing for the greatest and latest?
They kind of want it both ways.
They do want it both ways, but you can't do that. It doesn't work.
We'll never see another console generation with multiple SKUs ever again.
God, I hope not.
Jesus, that would be a good thing, because it's been a friggin' disaster all around for everybody, right? I mean, look at the way the PS3 line changed. Like, some of them have the old PS2 guts in them. Now we have new ones with different pricing, and that's been a mess too.
There hasn't even been a real price drop.
Yeah. So
We just have the old SKU reintroduced.
yeah, I think it all boils down to differences in opinion, and talking about disrupting the market. Nintendo Wii disrupted the market, and that's why you see Microsoft reaching for that word, and that's why you see them struggling with these issues, is because whatever plan they had charted before, they now are having they're having cause to question it.
Exactly.
They're having cause to question it and really question the foundation of what they were building on, which is really fucking them up.
They thought that because they were first, they were going to establish all the rules, and Nintendo proved that you can break those rules as long as you do it right, and they did it, and Microsoft's struggling to figure out how they salvage things.
Wow.
Down.
Well, we have some unfortunately disappointing news for people who still don't have a Wii coming up in the news segment, as well as some loose ends left over from Game Fest, some game announcements, some other stuff. You won't want to miss it. We'll be right back with the news.
You are listening to One Up Yours on the One Up Radio Network.
All right, we're back and ready to wrap the news and get on out of here for the weekend. Patrick, what else was there at Game Fest that we got to wrap up on here?
Pretty much the last thing that caught my eye was that the most bought game in 2007 was TMNT.
How the hell did that happen?
I don't know.
Like the classic Konami.
The
Yeah,
classic
the
arcade port,
89 Turtles game.
I can see it.
You don't love you some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Well, I mean, not compared to everything. I mean, I would have thought Geometry Wars or Pac-Man Championship Edition, to be honest.
I would have thought Pac-Man. I mean, Geometry Wars at this point is old, so within this calendar year,
But yeah, I'm shocked it wasn't Pac-Man.
I'm shocked it wasn't Pac-Man.
Pac-Man was not even in the top 10.
You're kidding, really?
The top 10 was TMNT, Worms, which actually surprised me because I didn't know that many people
It's got
bought
a fan base, solid fan base.
Solid European fan base, but in the US?
Wow, that one does surprise me.
They're out there.
Uno, shock.
Yeah,
no
shock.
surprise.
Always.
Castlevania,
Yeah.
There was a lot of hype when it came out, definitely.
3D Mini Golf Adventures, which is actually the one that shocked me. It's at 5.
Wow.
The Sierra,
People love miniature golf. Can't
Yes.
blame them.
Paperboy.
Which I think that's one of those games where you download it and 10 seconds later
You're
realize
like, shit.
it was nowhere near as good as it was in your head.
Right, you're like, oh, Paperboy, hot. Oh, what the
God, it's fucking boring.
Alien Hominid.
Okay, well, I'm
glad
that's
that
there,
did
yeah.
that well. 8 as a Geometry Wars, still sticking around.
Yeah.
9's Texas Hold'em. Those games are doing ridiculous numbers. And
Wasn't
10,
that free for a while?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, for I think the first.
Wasn't Uno free for a while too?
For a week, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then 10 was Heavy Weapon.
You know what Paperboy brings up that like Mark and I are retards to have forgotten about? You missed
California
You missed
Extreme.
California Extreme this year.
I'm very bummed about it because I've been going for years and years. I was in the wilderness, but you can watch a fun video on the Not the One Up show.
That's right. Yeah, we were filming. It was a blast. I'll just say that was a blast.
What was that last one you said again?
Heavy Weapon? I didn't play that
That
one.
was the top-down
I heard it was,
shooter,
I heard
right?
it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the one with the buggy and the? It's kind of.
I'm not sure it was top-down. I thought it was
I thought it was.
side-scrolling.
I think you're right, John. I think it is top down, and I heard it wasn't very good. Yeah.
But the most played game in 2007 is Uno and Texas Hold'em.
Shock.
Texas Hold'em.
Not actually down at number 9 though is Catan.
Really?
Go Catan.
Yeah, but even though that didn't, but it's not in the top 10 of sales. But it's not a big shock. It's in the top 10 of most
See,
most
isn't that where the heck?
time played or times
time
loaded?
played. It says by total minutes. So it's time. But those games are long.
A game of
so,
Catan takes a long time.
Yeah. So
Isn't that where 360 live, where 360 could disrupt stuff is through live adoption of casual games that have been on like huge on the we know how big they are on the PC
yeah, I mean,
market.
Microsoft's not going to be able to get that Wii market, but they can do something really interesting with
Yeah.
like games like Catan, where like that game would not sell anything at retail, but.
Yeah.
Look how look at then you get people around the office like I played Catan. I would never fucking play a board
Isn't
game.
like Hexic 2 hitting any day now?
It's out.
And
It's
it's
out.
out.
It is out
So
now.
that's probably going to be pretty huge, right?
Yeah, I mean that's where they can be disruptive is that casual market space on a console online.
The problem with Hexic 2 is if it isn't actually that much better than Hexic 1, which was free, people might like not think it's worth it. You know?
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're going to
Possibly.
care. Like Bejeweled 2 has been done really well on Xbox Live Arcade.
Yeah.
So, actually, pretty much the only big game announcer this week was Gearbox's new IP.
You mean the same game that it's making? Like, seriously. Like, I have to wonder. You know, it's like when Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine happened at the same time, or like the 2 Tornado movies, 2 Volcano movies. Like,
2 bug movies. It always happens.
these games look really similar.
Yeah, it's called Borderlands. I guess the basic description is like Mad Max meets Diablo or something like that, but it's from a first-person perspective.
Yeah, like a 4-player
shooting in the MotorStorm
shooting
environment.
and driving, and
Well, and Randy wants to bring in like this whole element of character development and like RPG light stuff. So I mean that's
Yeah,
stuff
of course it does.
So what? This is like Hellgate in a Mad Max setting?
right. And then,
Kind of,
and then
yeah.
the other big catch to it is 4-player co-op that's on the fly, drop in and drop out.
That's
Hello,
cool.
2 Human.
I wonder where this game will come out before 2 Human, perhaps.
Highly likely. Gearbox are pretty efficient.
But it's published by 2K, right?
Yeah, it's published by 2K. It's coming out for 360 PC,
PS3.
PS3, and sometime next
2K
Christmas.
are stepping up on signing some good stuff these days.
They are definitely.
And then also announced this week something I personally don't give a shit about: CNC 3 expansion pack, Kane's Wrath.
Something I
You
personally,
guys
I love
care?
how you, well,
When you first said that, I thought you were talking about CNC Music Factory. I was pretty excited.
Announced a new
Awesome.
album.
They're reissuing the old Sega CD game.
there's a lot of people who will totally dig on this because A, Command & Conquer 3 has tapped into the what that fan base really enjoyed about the action and style of that game, and B, this part picks up the story after the last CNC and tells what happened
Well,
to Kane to
it's-
rise back to power.
Yeah, it's like a prequel and
Yeah, it's going to
post,
carry
pre
forward.
and post.
It's going to carry forward too.
It does.
supposedly.
What I do think was cool is they're bringing in. I didn't play Battle for Middle Earth, but did you play the War of the Ring? Like that, like War of the Ring was some mode. Like it was a larger scale. Do you have an idea what I'm
Shu
talking
is a
about?
huge fan.
Anybody?
Nope.
No one.
Which
Bueller.
you're talking about
Battle of Middle. There's some War of the Ring mode. I don't know. I don't know. They're doing the same
You
thing.
played
For,
that. I think you both played that.
Yeah, I played it for
I did.
a
I didn't
bit.
play.
Yeah.
I think he's talking about an online exclusive mode where there was obviously a larger metagame happening. Is that what
Yeah,
you're talking about?
yeah,
Yep. No,
yeah.
I didn't play that.
Oh, okay. Well, they're doing the same thing for CNC 3. Then there's basic new.
Shu is like apoplectic with glee right now.
Ask him about his ring wraith.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much it for game announcements this week.
That was
Oh,
it?
you skipped a couple of good ones there, man.
Of game announcements?
Tell me
What?
that like the rumor of calling all cars coming to PSP
Well, I mean,
didn't get people tweaked.
I don't know. I mean,
Did anyone honestly not see that coming?
yeah, I mean that game's so
Well,
simple.
But, we didn't know if it was really going to happen.
No, but
Well, but the broader
we still
implication
don't know
of
if
it
it's
is
really
cool.
going to happen, do we?
Yeah,
we don't.
it's listed in some UK magazine, PSP, the official guidebook. So it's some official Sony sanctioned thing in there. It sounds like this was probably a Leipzig announcement that is leaking out.
I think
early.
after seeing what's the cool little MC Escher Echo
Echochrome.
Echochrome, seeing Echochrome coming for both, that sets the standard. Okay, they can come for both. So
Yeah.
I'm not that surprised.
I think
it's
that's
cool.
I think it's a really good precedent that it could set, because it also gives them a way to tap a different market, and so it makes these things even more economically viable. So the development of them can only get better if you've got more places to sell them, right?
Although Echochrome is going to be a UMD,
It is going to be a UMD.
whereas so it's going to be expensive.
That's
And I wonder how expensive the PS3 download is going to be, because that looks like an $8 PSN game, but you've got to assume that it's going to be a $29.99 UMD game.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought the whole idea was that you'd be able to download them and put them on your.
No, Echochrome is a packaged. It's Warhawk, only it's going to a PSP package product.
I didn't think about that. How they're forced by retail. To
Right. So
price
how
that
do you
the same.
how do you take an $8 download game and turn it into a $30 PSP
but we
retail
also
game?
know the PSP store is coming, and it could change format.
It's been coming for how long though?
Well, we'll see.
You don't. You keep it as an $8 game and allowed to be downloaded to your PSP.
That's the smart way to do it.
Exactly.
But the strategy so far looks like it's going to be download on PS3 and then stick it in a box to appease retail.
That's absurd. Sorry, never mind.
But Sony-
shouldn't even have
Sony-
brought it up. Obviously, That's
Sony,
absurd.
they can't do anything different because they can't. Like Sony doesn't have the market share to be able to tell retailers like, "Sorry guys, this is what we're gonna do."
Yeah,
like
because they'll go, okay, if you're going to do that really expensive box we don't make any money on, we're just not going to carry it.
they're gonna shove it to the back of the, no
You
advertising.
can download the PS3 hardware.
Yeah.
That'll take a while.
Now, if Nintendo did it.
Wah, wah.
Also this week, a lot of Guitar Hero stuff going on. There was new Guitar Hero 2 downloadable content from My Chemical Romance.
That came out of nowhere, didn't it? Like, the last thing I had heard kind of quietly from them was that maybe they were going to do like some of the stuff off of Guitar Hero 1. I had no idea that like
I saw you wearing a lot of mascara. I thought maybe you were getting ready for.
It's interesting that My Chemical, so I grabbed the little iTunes widget thing that iTunes spits out now and dropped it into my blog, and it just gives you like a little scrolling thing of everything that you've bought from iTunes. And I got more comments on that than I've had on just about anything for a while. And people were like, "Oh, dude, you have My Chemical Romance." I'm like, I liked a couple of the songs, so I downloaded it. I mean, but I got like 45 comments about it.
So did you download these?
Not yet.
obviously are popular enough. I think the bigger thing that they're trying to, I think the reason that we saw this now is because of this ongoing battle of the bands between the two franchises now, and
It's getting uglier by the week.
And so the emphasis here is not downloadable content for Guitar Hero 2. It's we've got My Chemical Romance, and we've got 3 master tracks from their biggest selling
That's the
album.
larger thing. Like they're master tracks,
Right.
like, and that's such a highly demanded feature to like not have those shitty singers. I mean, like going along with the games you're playing, and like so I think this was less like like a money thing, is more just like getting the Guitar Hero name out there, like hooking these people
Fully
in
agree.
again.
Well,
And
strategic move.
They're a pretty popular band, so
Yeah.
it's a power play.
And they, it kind of couples with their other power play, getting Bret Michaels.
Yeah, I think that's not a power play.
That's power play right there.
but motion capture, they brought him into the studio. His
Dude, he
signature
gave
moves.
Him all his signature moves.
Have you seen that awful
Rock of Love.
thing that he's doing
Yeah,
right now?
I've seen Rock of Love, and I like Bad TV, and it's entertaining. But
you see the season premiere of The Hills?
Did I ever? What is Heidi and Spencer? Like seriously, like what a bunch of losers. Anyway, but no, Bret Michaels being in Guitar Hero 3, that makes me not want to play Guitar Hero 3.
Oh,
He's like a
come
washed up has been.
He won't look.
He's
He
also
won't look like that.
Guitar Hero. I mean, they should be reveling in the culture of guitar. That's
Yeah.
what they
Yeah,
have over
Slash,
over
that's
Rock
awesome.
Band. Yeah, what they have over Rock Band is you want to be a guitar hero. It's air guitar. It's like focus on that. Give me guitar bands. Bret Michaels played acoustic guitar on Every Rose Has Its Thorn. He's not a guitar hero.
And what the hell is the Bret Michaels band?
I don't think it existed before this.
He put out a country album a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's from that.
You'll still rock the Talk Dirty to me.
Well, yeah, but That's
You'll feel
Poison,
slightly
not
guilty
Bret
about
Michaels.
it. Yeah.
I fully agree with you about the Guitar Hero thing. They should really zero in on the
yeah,
guitar. Definitely.
give us some more 80s and 90s like guitar wank instead of Bret Michaels.
Yngwie.
Give me some Yngwie and some Satriani and some Steve
Satriani,
Vai and give me that, not Bret fucking Michaels. Good God.
Really hit a nerve there. I'm sorry.
I concur, and we're not the only ones who feel this way. Like, I think that they thought that announcement was going to go over well, and instead, like, among,
It's all because of the fucking MTV thing. They thought that they'd surf on the back of it. That's clearly what they're doing.
But yeah, this was a game about, like, watching
it's also
a bunch.
fuck you to MTV because they're involved with Rock Band.
Fully.
Yeah, I mean, if the game had, like, a bunch of washed-up trailer park hoes like the TV show, maybe that'd make more sense.
Wow, there's a new angle that they should add, maybe.
And then kind of moving on games, more like same old. Nintendo apparently is not going to have any new production facilities to meet demand this fall.
Don't have a Wii, still not getting one.
Digitimes reported that because of there's a tight supply on IC and PCB chips, that Nintendo, which was supposed to expand their production facilities this June, it's not happening.
Mm-hmm. So I heard that the Nintendo store in New York gets a shipment every day.
Every day they get around 100, and they sell out of them in the first 2 hours.
So if you want to go to a store that might have one and want a store that you can line up in front of, go to New York.
That's pretty much it.
Wow.
Other than that, good luck.
It's amazing. Can you imagine what it's been? I mean, it has not alleviated the entire course of this year. So this holiday, it's just going to be...
They've been doing nearly 400,000 units a month every month.
When Wii Fit comes out, a bunch of soccer moms are going to come kick your ass and take your Wii. Watch out.
Yeah.
Wii Fit's not this year, though, right?
In Japan, not here.
I think it's going to be interesting also to watch how quickly Zelda for Wii jumps back onto the charts during the holiday season.
Shit, yeah.
They re-promoted that?
I bet Mario
alongside Phantom Hourglass?
I bet Mario Party 8 and Wii Play outsell it this holiday season.
Possibly because so many original adopters pick it up. Depends on how many years of hardware it can sell, but I can tell you this, that Zelda is going to jump back into the into the stats again. Easily. What else happening?
Then also this week, part of this PlayStation blog, which is still kind of an interesting thing to watch, Sony's senior director of corporate communications, Dave Carricker, went on and pointed out this PS3 Vault, which is a fan site. They went and did all this weird shit with the PS3 to stress test it.
They froze one.
They froze it. They went it up to
they cooked one too.
Had it up
in
to
a sauna,
running it for 108 hours, while still running Blu-ray movies, and it was fine. And I don't think that's a big shock. I don't think any of us have disputed that the PS3 is very well designed piece of hardware. It's just very hot.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be because their customer service and returns not nearly as effective as Xbox's.
They haven't had as much practice, Garnet.
Obviously. God damn, 2 weeks to get me the box to send it back. Jesus.
What happened with yours?
I have just something, the stupidest little thing. One of the bearings on the cooling fans is spun, so every time it spins, every time the cooling fans kick up, it makes this loud whining noise that sucks.
Garnet, you did get a $100 discount on your shop-worn PS3.
It wasn't shop-worn.
You should have expected.
It wasn't shop-worn.
It was dropped.
It wasn't dropped. It was.
Did you or did you not get $100 back because it was?
Maybe.
Yeah, you did.
Maybe.
So
possible.
2 weeks of waiting for a box is not much of a price to pay.
Exactly.
And you got 7 Blu-rays with it, right?
Well, yeah, the whole, that was that Blu-ray promotion thing. And it's no
So
big deal. It's not like there's anything to play on it right
so
now.
for $399, you didn't pay shipping, and you got 7 Blu-rays.
And I got 6 Blu-rays.
Right.
6 Blu-rays and the remote.
It's a nice
for
remote.
$399.
So what are you bitching about?
I want my shit taken care of. Damn it.
Actually,
what have you played on it? Super Stardust, and that's about it, right? Have you even watched the movies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was actually how we found, that was why it's so annoying is because when we were playing a movie that high pitch, it's awful. It's
getting back on track.
Whining.
One of the weird things about the
Cock ass!
God damn it, Garnet. The character did was he also pointed to a New York Times article about the whole Red Ring issue that Microsoft's experiencing, and really it's kind of like a diss, but this is kind of like the approach of Sony PR. The people like us that are in contact with, especially Carricker, he does have a habit of pointing you towards disparaging articles about Microsoft and Xbox 360. So it's not really a surprise to see him doing this publicly because this is what he does to the press too. So it's just kind of his dig. That's what his job is to do, is to try and get us to write bad things. So. Also this week, related to, PS3 kind of because of the entire Epic Games deal they've got going through Unreal Engine 3, they announced that they're partnering with GameSpy to provide multiplayer technologies that's going to be free to anyone that's bought the Unreal Engine so far.
So is this to go along, because they're also including Games for Windows Live as part of Unreal as well now, right? On the PC?
Right. They
Yes.
announced that.
Yeah.
So is this is the if you don't want to do that, do this option from the package?
Yes. I mean, this kind of seems like I mean, this does not apply to Xbox 360 whatsoever because
It's
if
just
you're
PC
doing,
stuff, right?
it's PC and PS3. So this is basically trying to provide some sort of like online basic functionality for a service that doesn't have that inherently in its SDK or
Well,
like
good,
a network
'cause, I mean,
service.
GameSpy's been tied to the PlayStation brand for.
They've been doing it forever. I mean,
since the PS2 went online.
GameSpy was a part of Untold Legends, I think.
It
So
was
this is kind of
the
an extension
original
of that.
middleware solution for PS2 online.
Well, it's not like Microsoft was ever going to supply a middleware that would talk to
No.
PS3 and PCs.
No, and like what this does introduce is like the opportunity for games like Unreal Tournament to possibly do cross-platform play, which I ultimately don't think we're going to end up seeing.
No.
But at least shared content.
But you can do
like
shared
maps and
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah. So, but this does allow the opportunity to do that for a game that wasn't so like. The experience of playing a shooter on a PC is very different than it's going to be playing on PS3. It's going to be slower on PS3. Like you're using more of a controller.
But
and
they're going to be supporting mouse and keyboard through this engine as well for PS3, right?
they are, but the game will inherently, I think, actually does inherently run slower on PS3. Like the actual character speed is different. So I don't think we're going to end up seeing that just because it's difficult to play balance. But like like a strategy game, like a CNC type game, like this is kind of interesting. Like that's easy to balance.
Or
for
an MMO.
Yeah. So I think that's probably what we'll see more out of that.
It's only a matter of time before someone manages to court Blizzard in the console space. I mean, we thought it was going to be a PS3 announcement before the thing came out.
I'm not going to walk out on their limb anymore because I'm surprised that it's been this long and it hasn't happened.
They've held out this long. I almost think at this point,
Blizzard doesn't need it.
Right.
Yeah, maybe Nintendo could give them the money they want. Who knows?
And but then it's also Blizzard. I mean, look how long we waited
Imagine?
Could you imagine?
Look how long we waited for StarCraft. Like, if Blizzard's going to go in the console space, like, there is absolutely no rush to make any announcement or do anything now. The user base is not there for
They're
them.
too busy swimming in money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And speaking of money, also this week, MTV announced that they're going to be investing over $500 million into the video game space over the next 2 years.
Man, I hope that's a Hills game.
Probably. I mean, they literally said like a lot of this is like putting more of their brands that they have, which is probably a lot of their television
good.
IPs.
More Brett Michaels.
Yeah, and like it's more of this stuff.
Flavor of Love MMO.
That was the part actually that kind of worried me about that whole announcement because
Yeah.
they're talking about we want to get our brands out there more, and I'm thinking of these horrible.
Which brands?
Yeah,
Date My Mom.
yeah.
That's a real show.
I
By
just have
the
this
way.
vision of them churning out crap to support their brand. Almost like an extension of the web-based games that a lot of
$500 million
shows-
well spent, I think you'll find, Garnet.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like it has much more to do with them, like looking like oh shit, look at what we accidentally managed to do with Rock Band, and like trying to translate it over to the other brands, and it's gonna fail.
You never know.
Wow.
Wow,
Judgment called by Patrick Klepek.
Yeah,
there you go.
but maybe if they make that Hills game.
Exactly.
Just to kind of wrap things up this week, a weird thing is that Shack News broke this story. I guess you can download these Wikipedia watchers, like to see
let you know when pages are being edited.
and like it doesn't list their IP and stuff like that. And they saw it at Electronic Arts, like over 1/3 of the 1,351 changes being made was from an EA IP, and they were editing out things like, if you guys remember the whole EA spouse thing related to like they took out all relations to that, and they took out a lot of things about Chip Hawkins, like the EA's founder, and like we're putting in a lot more things about like Larry Probst, who's now there now, and I don't know, like this isn't a shock.
History is written by the winners, Patrick. Rewritten.
Revisionist history.
Revisionist history.
And like people kind of like threw like their arms about this, but I don't know. Like every company has somebody that monitors this
Right.
stuff and makes these changes.
Isn't that what Wikipedia allows?
Yeah, the nature of Wikipedia being open source is that companies can go in there and modify the content. So this is a bunch of ado about nothing. Like every company has somebody that does this. Like,
Oh, I don't know about nothing. Now, come on, it's not enough about nothing. It's fucking sleazy as shit, but it is what Wikipedia is. But let's not say anything other. It's totally sleazy to
I mean,
us.
look, you think about it,
but-
that Wikipedia turns up as a Google search result on just about anything. Now.
Right.
It usually ranks top 10. So if you're worried about bringing traffic in, you kind of want to know what Wikipedia is saying about you.
You absolutely do.
I bet if you did a wiki watch on just about certainly any games company, you'd be able to track
any
track
games company, any political figure, like
Yeah.
anyone that's in the
you
public
can
eye.
track an IP back to where they're based.
Is there one of yours wiki page? If so, we better go look at
It's
it.
got like 2 lines. Last time, I think there's a one of yours one, and it has like a line.
We
just
better
says-
keep an eye on that.
It actually, someone was messing with it once and had like had Luke Smith running the One
Oh,
Up
that's right, yeah.
Empire or some nonsense like
I
that.
bet if you did that IP search, it'd be Luke Smith who made that.
You can confront him next week.
We can confront him
Man,
next week.
It's
Actually,
gonna be a senses-shattering special.
it is. So next week on the regularly scheduled segment, you'll hear our normal show. We'll be recording that next week before we head off to Seattle for Saturday night's big live taping in front of an audience. I don't know whether to be nervous or excited or.
I'm terrified.
Are you guys going to drink?
I think we might have to. And we're not even sure what we're going to talk about yet.
And so don't forget to join us then. And we've already gotten some people like RSVPing. I know that Bowley sent me a note that he's going to be there, and a bunch of the Squadron of Shame guys are getting together to come up there.
Friendly
So-
faces.
Do we know what time? Can we say the time and everything right now? or-
Yeah, no, it's 7:30.
In Theater B.
That's right. So come look to us. I think we're set up for a couple 100 people plus some standing room at the back or
So
something.
it's going to be really embarrassing when there's 5 people at
Yeah.
the front
Yeah.
going, "Get off!
Hey, wankers, get the
Say
fuck out of
something
here."
funny."
Who are these people?
So anyway, we'll be recording that there, and then that show will go up a week from this Friday. And that's all we've got, folks. Until then, catch us at boards.oneup.com. Garnet Lee for the rest of the gang here. We're gone.